Any public for public comment? Raquel, is there anybody online?
Seth is online. I'm
Oh,
not sure um, if he wants to make a comment or not.
okay.
I don't think he was looking to get promoted. He texted me that he was online and would let me know if he had any questions or comments. So I
Okay,
think he's just observing.
great. Okay, great. So let's go to the approval of prior minutes from August 6th, 2024 and August 15th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I
I
don't think you
think
have
you'll
a
have to
quorum.
table that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna table that?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's table that.
okay, gotcha.
This meeting is just for fun unless there's a quorum.
Okay, so let's go to, we'll go to new business. I'm gonna turn it over to Ben and let him go over some stuff that's, really, we're just thrilled and excited to start, going forward with. So Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, so unofficial update, I guess now. So we've been really busy this past week since we did the presentation to the Board of Selectmen last Monday, which I believe was well received. So our next step, as we talked about during our last committee meeting, was basically meeting with our project team members, both BL, Gilbane, and Colliers, and met with all of them individually over the last week and discussed kind of the path forward for this project. And most importantly, what we would have to do to modify any contracts that are in place to get rolling with the revised scope of this project. So first off, there was Jesse with BL on the design side, and Jesse provided a really good kind of meeting brief afterwards, running through just to memorialize what the change scope is, and I'll run through that really quickly. And but on the financial side, to add in the portions of new work, let's call it, for the auditorium and for the gym, have a fee of about a little more than $18,000 to do that. But since we're removing some of the electrical portion from the scope, that actually is going to be a cost avoidance of about $20,000. So on a net basis, from the design standpoint, our overall contract spend will go down. Jesse and I are working through memorializing that. And my goal is for the next meeting to actually have action items for the board to approve these. Right now, again, we're just talking conceptually. So just to review, right now we are focusing on year one. So we presented the 4-year plan, and we're calling it year one, but it's more than a year's worth of work. It essentially is a one summer interruption. Dr. Cook, Peter, and I met yesterday to talk about scheduling. And because Polson is going to be the only school in the portfolio that's really available for use this summer, we're going to stay out of his way this summer in Polson. And what we'll start working through with Gilbane and Colliers is how we want to procure this project, whether we do an advanced purchase of some of the equipment. That's something that we'll be figuring out in the coming weeks and recommend to the board. So we'll see how that goes. But just to talk about the kind of high level scope changes, the rooftop units throughout the building, instead of kind of the major surgery involved to change system types and moving pieces of equipment and everything, it's a 1-for-1 replacement project now. It'll be the same zones. We will replace the rooftop units there with new electric and electric cooling, gas heating, and we're actually going to replace about 20 feet of the ductwork below each penetration. And that's to put in new sound dampening equipment in there to meet new code on that. And obviously, it's a lot better customer experience when they're quieter. The auditorium, we're going to be replacing the HVAC system in there, obviously, and then adding a packaged unit for cooling as well. So the auditorium will be cooled. The main gym, we're going to look at 3 different options in there. Again, the goal for the main gym is to provide cooling to a space that's not cooled right now. One is putting in a packaged rooftop unit, which is kind of what exists in the plans right now. 2, we have hot water in that area. Our boiler loop runs through the gym. So BL is going to take a look at investigating the possibility of using those heating coils, possibly through a heat exchanger to glycol, and having units with hot water coils, and we could see the efficiency of that. Then option 3 would be something to look at where we essentially keep where the units are now. They're like interior air handlers, and seeing if we could add cooling to units in those same positions, and then we don't have to put anything outside on the roof except for the condensers. So just something to engineer and work through. For all of our classroom and office areas that aren't air conditioned now, we are going to be doing the VRF systems. Essentially the kind of commercial version of ductless split units. So there'll be individual controls in each classroom for those. No change to ventilation, but they get cooling. I'll pull up a plan at the end that shows the different areas that we're thinking. Important to note that what they call the dedicated outdoor air systems, or these DOAS units, they are no longer part of the scope. The building is going to be ventilated how it's always been. There is no change. Obviously, that was kind of the major surgery we're talking about, but it's important to know we are cooling the building, but those additional ventilation systems are no longer part of the scope. In terms of controls, instead of an entire building, brand new control system everywhere, the working plan that BL is fleshing out is putting in control systems for these new rooftop units, the 1-for-1 replacement. They will have a control system associated with them. And then the VRF systems will have their own, I call them like manufacturer controls. They'll still be internet accessible. They'll still go to a head end, but it's not going to be one system for the entire building, which is fine. It's just a different way of managing the building. We'll still have a lot more visibility and control than we do now. On the electrical side, I'm looking into the grant requirements. I've requested paperwork internally here to really get a handle on what we have to order in terms of a generator. I don't want to over design this. I don't want to go to this FEMA level 4 unless we really have to. Not only is there a ton of expense with that, it's also lead time. You're talking almost 2 years for some of those really high-end generators, and frankly, it's just not needed for this project. So I want to make sure that we're okay with doing that. It's not going to jeopardize our grant. So that's kind of my task I'm working on. The other electrical modification is there was an extra in the design scope that was added on to replace all the distribution panels throughout the building, whether they were impacted by this project or not. We are not going to do that now. That's that $20,000 in design savings we talked about. There's no reason to touch these panels at this time if we're not doing any project works around them. We won't trigger any code upgrades or anything like that. Those will be left in place. The main gym, obviously, that's going to be something that we're upgrading the scope on. So instead of just doing cooling in the gym, we want to make that gym a showcase. So BL is going to be designing a new seating system, new bleacher system for the gym, replacing the lighting in the gym. Fully painting it sounds silly, but I mean, when you get a nice new coat of paint on that ceiling and walls, it'll really make the place pop. And then we're going to fully refurbish the flooring in that area, a complete restoration on the flooring. Auditorium, again, the auditorium is going to have its scope expanded. So auditorium, we're going to address the ceiling as well. We're going to get all the hazardous building materials out of there. We're going to abate the floor. Put new seating in there, and also address the stage. Again, the stage kind of gets the same treatment as the gym floor, stripping and refinishing it. Also, while we have the ductwork exposed in there, Jesse had a really good idea where he's like, hey, if we've got it exposed anyway, there's nothing wrong with the existing ductwork. 60s ductwork is usually better than new ductwork, but we're going to take the opportunity to re-insulate all of that. It's actually a question right now if it's even insulated now at all. We haven't been able to get up there to verify that because of the building conditions there. So we're going to plan on replacing all that. That'll also let us, if it is insulated now, when we expose everything, we can see if there's any issues and address them at that time. So again, no additional design work. So thank you to BL's team for making that happen and kind of keeping us cost neutral on this. It was really good to hear. So a timeline for them is 2 months for construction documents. Then we want to get those into the hands of Gilbane so they could start running their process, and we'll be talking about how to actually procure, again, whether we do advanced procurement. Colliers is going to weigh in on that as well. So that's the BL side. To have these same discussions with Gilbane, and guys, you could jump in on this as well afterwards, but Gilbane is going to be reconfiguring what their contract with us would look like. We don't have a signed contract with them now. We've been working through pre-construction phases. Obviously, a lot of their fee is going to depend on the duration of the project, because that's when they're going to have their general conditions, their manpower actually physically running the project. So when we get those CDs, we'll again start thinking about how we want to phase and schedule this. Then the discussion with Colliers surrounded, okay, where does Colliers fit into this now? Obviously, I'm running the project on behalf of the committee here. I'm excited to do so. Definitely going to need some support on that. Chuck and I spoke yesterday about how that'll work going forward. So we're not being redundant. We're not tripping over each other. We're not having unnecessary costs, but we're also not leaving anything unturned. So Colliers is going to kind of act as a strategic advisor on this project, and we'll use them as we need to. And Chuck's going through their contract with us, seeing where we are at to date, and then some estimates on how we could use them going forward. But we definitely are going to need their support, especially when we get into those procurement discussions, working with Gilbane on that. So really, our team is now back together, and we are in a phase where we're moving this project forward. So we want to have any contract modifications to the committee, hopefully by the next meeting. It might be the meeting after that, and you could action those. But we will start meeting as a team, probably on the off weeks where we're not meeting as a committee. So we'll have good updates for you. And again, we're excited to kind of start moving this along and making this a tangible project. So anybody from our design team here want to weigh in or correct anything I might have not exactly gotten right?
No, that sounds about right. Just from the Colliers, I'm going to look at our contract, but I don't anticipate having to change anything. We do everything cost plus by the hour with everybody. So, and I kind of explained to Ben, like, what our role's been with Madison, really just staff support for your team, on an as needed basis. And we've been doing that for a while. So, we certainly don't want to be redundant. We're around the corner. So if you guys need us, you call us, we're there. I think probably the biggest, but we talked about the scope review and just with the team of how are we going to execute this plan and move it forward. Because there's a lot of parts and pieces and variables, especially not, taking Polson off for summer 25, and how can we take advantage of that schedule and not lose too much time. Because there is escalation that comes into play in these projects, as I think we've all painfully seen in the last couple of years. So those are things I think, obviously Nick and his team need to take a lead on, redevelop a couple different schedules and slide those bars back and forth. And what do they look like? Not only from a cost perspective, but as Ben mentioned, the operations, we don't want to mess up Polson's operations for that. But then, once we get into construction, our aspect, we had originally planned to have our commissioning team. We have our MEP team, this is what they do all the time. So, bringing them in as needed, just to confirm installations and operations. Cause I don't know because we're not going for, my understanding is we're not going for an indoor air quality grant through the state. Commissioning is not necessarily required. You're funding this whole thing. So, if there is select operations, functional testing, if the district wants to do, we can easily do that. But that's on an on-call basis. Totally up to you guys what we want to do. So I don't anticipate necessarily a change per se in our contract, because we do have a bidding phase and a construction phase amount that's still there. That'll just sit there and on an as needed basis. But I think what we have to do is just take a look at what the schedule is from Gilbane. We had assumed 3 summers, like 3 efforts of summers when we originally planned it, talking, with Bill. If that's different, we'll just have to take a look and see how you adjust it. So, but we're flexible with the district, of course.
Appreciate that. Nick, do you want to jump in on any of the?
Yeah, just to reiterate, in terms of our contract, as Ben mentioned, we don't have an executed contract, but I think we're pretty much there in terms of the terms of the contract and everything else. It's really just the timing that would change, as noted in the contract, as well as the price, which for us, as Ben mentioned, is largely the cost of our folks during the construction phase. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be working, as Ben mentioned, with Jesse and the team to get a better understanding of the project scope. I think we have a pretty good overall understanding of it now. We'll drill into the nuts and bolts a little bit more so we can put a project schedule together for it, at least a draft that we'll review with the team. And then from there, we'll be able to figure out what we need for our own, what we need for our labor in order to build it. And then that'll allow me to reprice it and resubmit it. So that's what we have going on the next few weeks. And in addition to that, we did a fair amount of above ceiling scans, 3D scans over the summer, this past summer. So I had a meeting with Mike Mazzarello, our PM, this morning, just looking through that. A couple glitches we need to iron out on our end, and then we'll be getting that information over to Jesse's team. And we may look to do a couple more scans. In particular, as Ben mentioned, the sound attenuated unit system to take up a lot of space above ceiling. So if our scan did capture some of those areas, we might want to talk about going back and hitting those. But that's what the next few weeks for us looks like.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Emily, before we, I think maybe Jesse could walk us through the plan that he drafted that just showed the kind of the different areas of the building and what our thoughts are. Any questions on like more of a contract side or you know, how we're moving forward right now?
No, not for me. It all sounds like everything's plugging right along in an even better way than expected. So I'm good right now.
Sounds good. Jesse, do you want to pull up your color-coded plan there? I love that thing. It makes it crystal clear what we're doing.
Yes, definitely.
And anything else that's on your mind? I didn't want to. You're more than just a plan.
No, I think Ben summed up everything well in terms of the shift in scope here a little bit. And you know, just to follow up what Chuck and Nick were saying about with our contract, you know, there's some redo of some stuff here. There's a little bit of new stuff on the HVAC side, but there's also some stuff that's not going forward with it. So it's pretty much going to be the same in terms of our scope, and we can fit it in the same contract. So the only additional services are really the new work in the main gym and then in the auditorium, which is fairly minor. And as he said, it's offset by not going forward with the electrical panel replacement. So our fees will actually end up being, you know, just slightly less than they are now. Let me zoom in here a little bit because, well, we'll just start with the overall view here. So this is a floor plan of the entire building. The driveway's out here and parking lots out this way, just to get orientation here. So the yellow areas here are the areas that are currently have rooftop units and air conditioning in the building. And so these are the areas that have been described. We're going to be replacing the existing units, putting new rooftop units. The ones there are well past their expected life expectancy. So, you know, they're in need of replacement. You know, we'll get those replaced, everything new for this area. And that's it. So instead of the previously, we were going to do a lot of ductwork modification to change a little bit. It's going to be a 1-for-1 replacement. We're going to have new air conditioning, ventilation, heating for this entire area. There's some minor changes, you know, like each classroom won't have its own thermostat to control the temperature in there. It'll be similar to how it is now. But I also, you know, from talking to people at the school, I don't think the existing systems work that well. So just having them back and working, you know, areas that are hot should be much less hot than they are now. So it's even though it's a 1-for-1 replacement, it should be a nice upgrade at this point.
Great.
The green areas are the areas of classrooms and offices that'll have new air conditioning. So let me just zoom into a classroom wing here. And
Oh, I see.
so previously we had designed both new ventilation and air conditioning for these areas, and this will instead be just new air conditioning. So it'll be a ductless split with ceiling cassette style indoor units. Most classrooms, I believe, will have 2 cassettes in them. And again, that goes back to sound requirements. 2 smaller cassettes is quieter than 1 big cassette. So we typically go that way to meet the state requirements for noise in a classroom. So this whole wing here will have air conditioning, you know, all the classrooms there. We have the English wing down here. These with some of the offices, computer, social studies, math, English offices over here, go down through the nurses area.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the corridor that everyone at the school has nicknamed the hot corridor. So we'll definitely be doing something with that because
Have to change the name.
as a mechanical engineer, I find it a little embarrassing when people are commenting on how hot somewhere is in a building. So, but yeah, same thing. The nurses area, these classrooms down here, and there's an orchestra classroom over here, just a kind of one-off there. And Ben and I had talked about adding the kitchen, faculty room, and office here in the kitchen area too. So those are the areas.
Yeah, I made the mistake of not doing the kitchens on my last few of these projects, and I oversaw food service, so I was like a self-inflicted wound where we had some really unhappy people there. But also, what it did was it kind of threw off the thermodynamics of the building, where you went from like a cold space to a cold space to a really hot place, and we were just getting like heat emanating from there. So we'll keep our food service folks happy with this one. And one thing to note is we're on the VRF thing. Is note how these systems, like they're in dedicated wings, right? So they're in like, this is what's conducive to this type of system is, one VRF system, on Plan North here will hit all those classrooms. So they're nicely distributed throughout the building where you get like the kitchen's going to probably have its own, and then that one rogue one on kind of the southeast on the plan here will have probably a single unit, but the other two are nicely located near each other where they all just branch off and serve a bunch of classrooms.
And then the blue highlights here are auditorium and main gym. So those currently have heating only systems or heating and ventilating systems. And so they'll get new systems for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning in both of those areas. So obviously that's a big upgrade for those areas. And just to finish up, the areas that have no highlights, those will remain the same as they are now. So these areas do not have air conditioning, and they won't at the end of this project. So let me just zoom in just to kind of show you where they are. So this is like the gym lobby and the restrooms up there. This one little weight room over here, wrestling room over here. Then we have a whole locker area here for the main gym. We have another locker area here. And we have a third locker area here. So it's mostly restrooms, locker rooms. I know some of those aren't really used. Some are being used more for storage now than anything else, but there are plans for them in the future. Again, storage rooms won't get air conditioning. The auxiliary gym is going to remain as it is now with nothing, and everything else is again, restrooms, storage rooms. It's really auxiliary spaces that don't need air conditioning in the first place.
Yeah, Ben and Peter, how in the gym that we're going to air condition, do we know how old that floor is at all? Like,
I know I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't original, but we're not ripping it up.
Yeah, no, not recommending that. I just want to maybe caution. We've had some experience and it's very site specific. Where when we introduced and Jesse confirmed we're air conditioning, so I'm assuming dehumidifying or just air conditioning.
No, with modern HVAC equipment, you can add dehumidification pretty easily on everything. So we always do that and always include it and recommend it.
Yeah, I just again, as a word of as I guess experience, we've had some floors where that dehumidification has kind of sucked the humidity out of the space. And those floors it's been used to that condition for a long time. It happened, North Haven Middle School is probably the most impactful one where everything shrunk and we had a 1/4 inch gaps between all the boards, and we had to ultimately replace that floor. I'm not saying it's going to happen here. I just want to make sure, kind of share our experience with, some of them have worked fine and then some of them don't. So we just don't really know until it happens. I just, I want to kind of share that experience that we had with introducing air conditioning into gyms. So
yeah, it's good. Let's kick that around when we meet next, because that's a good concern, and maybe we do look at putting a different type of gym floor down if that's going to be an issue in this situation. But we
or it might be, I certainly wouldn't recommend finishing it before we do that. Wait and see what it does, right? and
Yeah.
let it settle out. And if it doesn't move, hey, then great. And I don't want to, I don't want to be an alarmist by any means, but I hate to see it happen and go, why didn't you tell us it happened? You know, we just don't know what it's going to do it's amazing how they're so different from gym to gym. We've had some that perform just fine. And then the one in North Haven, it was pretty substantial. And then it releases a lot of unpleasant odors over the years, you know, underneath the floors. So, especially, and then when you go to sand it too, we're going to be taking off that seal. So can't just be something to be aware of.
For sure. What else you got, Jesse?
I think that pretty much sums up everything.
Any questions, Emily, on the overall plan or?
No, one of my notes from earlier, and I'm so glad to see this, was it would be really great to have some sort of, and this might be a conversation for Zoe or someone else in Central, I don't know, someone creative, to put together a floor plan like this that shows the public in obviously less detailed ways all the things that are happening, because I do think, you know, we're obviously spending a lot of time and attention on Neck River, and then to, you know, emphasizing how we're making Brown so great. But I think this is sort of lost a little bit in the news, the significant amount of work and improvements. And like you talk about, Ben, like the customer experience, this is pretty substantial. And then there's also things that'll be going on as part of the CIP process to that school. So maybe we can think about, I don't know who, Craig or something, like putting some sort of easy visual together, highlighting all the areas in Polson that are going to be like vastly improved as a result of this, because it really shows that we're paying attention to this school as much as every other building, you know.
No, I think that's a great idea. We can definitely look at that once it's approved and talk about the time frame and things like that, because there will be minor impact, like the gym being closed in the summer. What does that mean for the weight room, things like that? So there'll be definitely some things we'll want to over communicate ahead of time for those reasons too. I think that'd be good. Yeah, if it helps, I know it went a different direction. I was going to jump in there. That gym, the oldest it could be was 89. Because that's when that was added. I don't know if the floor has been redone, you know, completely since then, but that gym was added in 1989.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think what we would do is maybe after we get through the construction documents and they're reviewed by the team and we have a procurement plan strategized and in place, maybe, you know, we could even lay the groundwork for it now, just kind of make like a little marketing deck for it. And it's 5 or 6 slides and says, here's what we're doing. We kind of pull the technical nature out of this overall floor plan, put little call outs on it, and then maybe just some kind of before picture type thing. That sounds like fun. Yeah, I don't think we should do it now, but I think we should do it when we do have the schedule.
Definitely. I just think like, you know, when you were mentioning upgrading the main gym with like the bleachers, and that gonna have a big impact on the whole town, not just the students at Polson, and people are going to be excited about that. So I think there's just, you know, there's so much great work happening, and I don't want it to be lost or, you know, people going to Polson and to realize how much has been done. So yeah, that'd be fun. I think that'd be great, but this all looks amazing. I know Galen joined us. I don't know, Galen, if you have any questions or comments.
No, it's a great plan. Thank you.
Ben, did you want to highlight a little bit about also when we're putting these split systems in, the advantage of the swing season in those areas?
Sure. I mean, the beauty of these systems now is they all have heat pumps built into them, so that you get you do get the heating as well as the cooling. It used to be years ago that there was like there's a pretty significant cost difference from air conditioning only to being able to have air conditioning and heat. But it does provide some comfort control in the shoulder seasons where you're not running your boiler plant. Once you're into December, it's a lot more efficient to run your boiler plant. But it does provide some individual heating controls on those shoulder season days, and they could heat and cool simultaneously, you know, one classroom in one classroom in another. So that's an added kind of benefit. Also, it's nice from a redundancy standpoint. If you did have, so you know, we do have some older piping systems in the building. Leaks happen, boiler shutdowns happen. What's nice is the impacts of those are lessened when you could, flip those ancillary heating systems on. Jesse and I were talking, like, you could have the debate about, is centralized good or is decentralized good, and there are pros and cons to each one. So, like, for example, it's very efficient when a building has a chiller plant where you're bringing chilled water throughout the whole building. But if your chiller goes down, your building has absolutely no cooling. Whereas with this system, if a rooftop unit goes down, okay, you have a little portion of the building that's off, but everything else works. So operationally less disruptive, but you give up some efficiency for it. But yeah, it's an added benefit. Those sections will be able to have some shoulder season temperature control.
And Ben, were you going to mention maybe our design schedule? I think it might be important to understand that too. You and I kind of talked about, what that timeline is.
Yeah, so the pressure's on Jesse and his team right now. They said 2 months to have our construction documents ready. We're gonna hold them to that. So pressure's on, but we're here to support him. And like I said, we're gonna start meeting as a team every other week. And we're all gonna, do our part there. That the job is never going to be held up by us, so as Jesse and his team have questions, like I said, we'll meet with a team as a team. And then, so when we come to these building committee meetings, we'll be prepared to give a recommendation for any decisions that you need to make. So we want to work efficiently across the board. But right now, the target is to have construction documents ready for this project, and then ultimately get those into Nick and Gilbane's hands to start doing their thing and really start focusing our discussions around timing.
Yeah, and Ben and I kind of talked yesterday. Is we're looking at what, December 1, so probably the month of December. Letting having Gilbane put together bid packages, doing that kind of. We're going to start the strategy now, right? Like, we're not going to wait till then. What I recommended to Ben also is having my commissioning team review the documents from a technical standpoint. That's what they're best at. I think there's value to that. Again, it's these type of projects that are kind of a la carte to a certain degree. Really crossing the T's, dotting I's, making sure we have all the parts and pieces per se that we need, or at least recommendations that we can at least think of. So I'd certainly recommend that we have our team do that as kind of like a peer review to Jesse's team, if you will. But that, again, that's totally up to the building committee in the town if you want to do that. But then I think if there's any bidding, probably not until January, just because by the time we get the season, the holidays and stuff, bidders kind of I don't think they'll want to bid over the winter break. So probably better off in January timeframe.
Yeah, it'll be January, even February for some of the
exactly. We're not doing anything in 26 and 25, and I think just strategizing. It depends on the strategy we employ, for procurement.
Yeah, that's going to be our biggest task now is figuring out how to make this happen with limited disruption, while still maintaining kind of a good value and project sequence. So that's where Gilbane and their team will be invaluable to us to help work through some of those situations. But I think we've got a great team here. We've reinvigorated this project. I hope everybody's excited about it now. I don't want this project to be the black sheep of the town's, project portfolio right now.
Right.
This is going to be really good work for this school, and we're only talking about year one. I mean, there are 3 more years after this. But this team's purview is year one, and we want to make this happen.
I think it's great. It's really exciting. And also another thing, it does impact the whole town. Like I said, not only for basketball games, but it's like a voting location for folks. Like, people are in that building a lot for many different reasons. So it all looks great. I'm really excited. Thank you for the update.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Peter, you got anything else there? Or we
No, I'm good. And do we have the ability to go back and approve minutes, or are we still short some folks here?
Galen, we can make we can take actions, the 2 of us, right? We're a majority of the committee. Yeah. Yeah, Peter, we can go back and approve the minutes, and then we can also approve those invoices.
Great. Yeah, let's do that. So let's get a motion to approve the prior minutes of August 6th and August 15th, 2024.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion approved. A discussion? All set? Okay. Then so we have, 3 invoices, one from Silver Petrelli, which is, in the amount for $3,400 for the Daniel Hand High School RTU replacement, professional services through July 31st, 2024. Get a motion to approve that.
So moved.
I'll second that. I'm wondering, can we approve all the invoices in one
Do them
fell
all,
swoop?
you want to do them all at once? Great, yeah. So we also
Yeah.
have PL for, $9,600 professional services from June 29th to July 26th. And we have the final, Langdon invoice for $3,729.79. That's for the Polson mechanical HV upgrade, related to the hazardous building material surveys from June 29th to June 26th. We have a motion to approve the remaining 2 invoices.
Yep, I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Great, motion passed. Cal, do we have any, public comment?
No, no comments.
Any other remarks that, pertinent for the meeting? Ben, great job. That was awesome.
Ben.
I know I can speak for everybody here that we're all happy you're aboard.
Absolutely. Really great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So I'll second it.
All right, we'll see you folks. Take care.